Welcome. Today's project's on my top 3 eye-opening realizations when I was going through my anxiety recovery. I decided to do this video because I used to live my life looking at only one side of the coin. I was viewing my life through a narrow lens. I didn't see the big picture. I just couldn't. I was living in my own bubble. And I was internal. I was waking up every day ruminating over my sensations, ruminating over my health, obsessing over my health, obsessing. I used to obsess about how I looked in the mirror. A mole, it looked kind of funky. It could be cancer. I was looking at parts of my face, wondering if this cut on my lip, my lower lip, was like gum disease or something. And I kept obsessing over my health. So I was looking at the world through a narrow lens. And so when I started my recovery, those were the first steps out into the unknown, out into the world where I had to do my research. I had to discover why I was feeling anxious, why I couldn't get where I wanted to be in life. And so I started to research. I started to investigate. And after listening to many podcasts, starting to model myself after different coaches out there and people who overcame anxiety, I started to realize the bigger picture. I started to view things differently. And those were huge slaps in the face. Those were huge paradigm shifts for me. So I'm going to talk about those paradigm shifts in this video. And I hope you can relate to those. A lot of people come to my channel and say, hey, Brad, I've had those paradigm shifts with your videos because I was very, very narrow-minded, looking at the world through a narrow lens, and you relate to my story, and so I started to view myself, my anxiety, and my life differently. So I'm very grateful for that, and that's my goal, is to be there for you so that you can have the same breakthroughs I had. So I'm going to go and start with number 1, the first eye-opening moment, and that is the brain is neuroplastic. This was huge. And what neuroplasticity means is that the brain is able to change its neural pathways. The brain is able to unlearn something. The brain is able to strengthen new pathways and release its grip and lessen older pathways. So when you attach pain, enough pain, to staying where you are, to engaging in certain habits, maybe you smoke, maybe you drink, or maybe you eat a lot of junk foods, or maybe you're hanging with that negative friend, or maybe you just can't seem to go to the mall because you're suffering from severe health anxiety. You can attach so much pain to that cigarette, so much pain to that bad habit, that you move further and further away from that habit, that you unconsciously avoid that habit, avoid that cigarette or negative friend. It's like the rat who, if you shock the rat, when the rat goes to eat a piece of cheese, for example, it drops the cheese. It gets shocked. It's painful. The more you do that to the rat now associates that cheese, that piece of food, with that shock, with pain. So what do? They don't pick up that cheese anymore because they associate that cheese to pain. And so the more we attach our current situation to pain, the more we're going to move away from that and lessening our grip over that negative habit, over that addiction, right? So I discovered, which was so amazing, that the more I placed myself in new situations, the more I changed. This was huge for me. Just by picking up that book and reading, I was stimulating new pathways. I wasn't a big reader. So I discovered, going through my anxiety recovery, that if I just started reading, that's a good discipline for me because that's something new. That's something I didn't used to do. I used to place myself in front of YouTube videos of role models that overcame anxiety. Just being around that voice all day long was good for me. I started to act out that person unconsciously over time. So the more I placed myself in front of self-help videos, affirmational videos, meditating, eating different foods, healthy foods, exercising, things that I used to avoid, I started incorporating in my life, and I started to change. My brain circuitry started to change. That meditation turned into something stimulating for me, something I really enjoyed. It was hard at first to get into it, but the more you do it, the more you just engage in that activity, the more you're going to find joy in it, the more you're going to find the benefits of that new habit. Replacing that old bad habit with that new habit changes your life. Change your habit, change your life. So start subjecting yourself to those podcasts, those self-help podcasts from people who have overcome the challenges you're facing and have gotten better. So you learn from them. The more you surround yourself with those people, the more it gets ingrained within you, and thus you act like them and you talk like them unconsciously. And people around you will start to say, "Oh my God, look at Brad. He's acting and speaking differently." That only comes because of the more you subject yourself to that material, to new ways of being, the more you change. The second realization was those highly emotional thoughts that pop up into my head, like from my childhood, embarrassing moments, traumatic memories, was a sign from my unconscious mind that I needed to release it. So have you ever walked down, well, I'm sure you can relate because everyone had this experience where you're walking down the road or you're sitting on the subway or you're sitting at home and a thought, a memory pops up into your mind of an event from your childhood that was traumatic, embarrassing, and you start to pay attention to it and entertain it for 30 seconds, a minute, maybe a few minutes. Or it could have been an embarrassing moment that happened yesterday where you're ruminating over it, you're obsessing over it. And so that's a sign from your unconscious mind that it wants to get rid of this memory. It wants to release this memory. It doesn't want to hold on to it anymore. It wants to resolve it. And so that was a huge discovery for me because I had those thoughts all the time. I would be on the train just thinking about embarrassing moments from my childhood, and that would make me feel the same emotion from when I felt that from that moment when I was a child. I felt that embarrassment. I felt that shame, that guilt, that embarrassment. Oh, I can't remember the word, but it starts with an H. But anyways, I felt the same emotion, that memory, that actual moment had, right? So that would make me step back from the present moment. I would be obsessive over that memory. And so we have to understand that, and I understood when I started to learn that the unconscious mind makes up 90 to 95% of the mind and body. All of our habits are run unconsciously. Those traumatic moments, memories, are from your unconscious mind. So working with my unconscious mind was something I needed to do in order to release those traumatic moments. So that was an eye-opening thing because I always wondered why I was obsessing over these thoughts, why I couldn't just live in the present moment. That was something that was really distressing for me. And so the unconscious mind is very powerful. It makes up to 95% of who we are, of our mind and our body, right? The first eye-opening, the biggest, I should say, eye-opening moment from when I was recovering, when I was starting my recovery, was realizing those sensations, that pain, those uncomfortable body zaps, was because of anxiety, not because of a serious disease I really thought I had. I was obsessing over those pains in my sides, the headache, the muscle spasms, the backache, the heart palpitation. I was obsessing over these symptoms, but I discovered through my anxiety recovery that my anxiety is causing these sensations. So I was then looking at the other side of the coin. Oh my God, you mean my anxiety is causing this pain? It's not really kidney disease. It can just be my anxiety response? That's interesting. So that was eye-opening for me because I was obsessing over my health. Every day, every morning I would wake up, check in on that sensation, and what do you know, it's there. But it was a paradox, right? The more I paid attention to it, the more I stressed over it. But what happens when you stress over it? Your anxiety is active. Your cortisol and adrenaline is released throughout the body, meaning more blood is going to your muscles, so you feel more tense. That causes a lot of body aches. Shallow breathing, your lungs are pumping more oxygen to your muscles because you're in the fight, flight, or freeze response. The fight, meaning you're preparing yourself to attack the threat, the potential danger. So you need your lungs to pump that oxygen to your muscles. You need your heart to beat faster so it pumps that blood to your limbs so you can run or you can fight, right? So that's why you feel so many different body sensations. The sweaty palms, the shallow depth of field, the dry mouth, the hyperventilation, tense muscles, the body zaps that occur in the chest and my lower stomach and the back aches. This was huge because I started to realize that I actually may not have a real physical illness, that maybe I just need to learn to activate the rest and digest system, right? The parasympathetic nervous system. That's the rest and digest system. That's the system we feel relaxed, calm, in the present moment, and grounded. So that was the beginning of my journey. These were the biggest eye-opening moments for me, and I hope they relate to you. I hope that my story relates to you, and I hope that you have subscribed and follow my journey, because I post so much about my struggles with severe health anxiety, severe agoraphobia, severe stress, and I was lost in my life. I didn't know what I was going to do, and I was afraid all the time. So I hope this content has been useful for you, and I want to hear from you. I want you to leave me a question. I want you to contact me so we can talk about this together. Thank you, and remember, do not let anxiety define who you are. I will see you on the next video. Bye for now. Remember to hit that subscribe button and that bell so that whenever a new video of mine appears, you will be the first to know. Namaste.